Hey everyone, it's Yang Yan Zhao back again. Today we're going to be talking about the great Jawbreakers by Zack, better known as Diversity in Comics, government name Richard C. Myers. So Jawbreakers is sort of the OG Comicsgate comic book. So I bring up Comicsgate a lot on this channel, and some people would want to know why. Well, let's take a quick run through the history of comic books. So you start in the late 1800s, 1890s with The Yellow Kid, which is ostensibly the first comic book. And basically at that time, what you had was a bunch of comic strips that appeared in newspapers. There were thousands and thousands of newspapers across the country. You had some political cartoons, and then there were more funny cartoons. They have sort of dissipated these days with the death of the newspaper. You don't see any more Garfield coming up, reaching the public consensus. But after The Yellow Kid, we start to see all these kinds of comic strips, and in the US, the next big thing is Superman. So when Superman came about, it really cemented the popularity of superhero comic books, which has really become the mainstay of American comic books since then. So Superman at first was a man who almost had communistic ideals, really. He was fighting for the working man. I mean, if you substitute some of the language for like proletariat, and fighting against the bourgeoisie, you would be like, yeah, the red cape is for communism. But that got moderated out in the 50s, really. So then you start to see more comic book superheroes, bigger ones being, of course, Batman. I think it was 1939. You see Captain America, 1941, the start of Timely Comics. Then you have the Comics Code, which came in the 1950s. So what a lot of people in the US forget is that even though most people think of superhero comics as the default American comic book form, it was actually just one genre of many. Up until the 50s, horror was probably the biggest. There was science fiction and straight up horror. You had Creepshow and other similar ones. And of course, the busybodies in Congress thought that it was leading to the degeneration of American youth, and we would all be weak ninnies ripe for Soviet invasion. So they passed what was known as the Comics Code Authority, which severely limited the content. So no drugs, no sex, nothing too horror-ish, like decomposing bodies, adult themes, that kind of stuff. So the next big thing was Stan the Man Lee, who unfortunately just passed away a couple months ago. A lot of people have asked me throughout the years, well, okay, Stan created Spider-Man and, Fantastic Four and all these guys, but, that's not such a big deal, right? No, my friend. If you look at most of the comic book heroes before then, like the DC heroes especially, the DC heroes are gods. Superman's a god. Batman a bit less so. But he's even though I consider him the greatest American character of the 20th century, the dude has serious psychological problems. But you look at Wonder Woman, literally the daughter of a god. You look at people like Flash and Green Lantern, all those guys, they are the basically godlike powers. Hawkman has wings like an angel. So they're really like a step above human beings, right? They're not on the same level. But Marvel characters, they were more like, well, what if the average Joe all of a sudden got superpowers? So you had like the Fantastic Four, they got their powers in space. You got Ben Grimm, he's basically cursed in this rock body. He can't function like a normal person, can't go anywhere incognito. He can't get women because he's made of stone. You think he'd be really hard all the time, but hey, whatever. Then you look at someone like Spider-Man, probably the most famous Marvel character of all time. So Spider-Man was an average teenager. He was a real jerk in the first issue. You would probably call him an incel today. He seemed bitter because nobody liked him, especially girls. Then he got power. What did he do with the power? What all of us would do, make money. I don't know if I go the wrestling route, but hey, that's what he had. So he wrestled. He had the chance to stop a guy who killed or who stole from wrestling. He didn't. That guy later kills his Uncle Ben. And the rest is history. Peter's story after that has been his struggle and his guilt with letting the man who killed his Uncle Ben go. He's had many opportunities over the years to better his life, better jobs and whatever, but he keeps screwing it up by becoming Spider-Man because he has that need. So really, things are going great. The next big thing was the 80s. The 80s, to quote diversity in comics, was the time when comic books finally took themselves seriously. And what you had is a lot of people who really started writing more adult themes, more adult content, so to speak. Not like TNA or porn or a lot that was too graphic, but you had that. You had a lot of great writers in the Marvel universe, and then DC's Vertigo. You had great authors, Neil Gaiman, Alan Moore. You start to see Grant Morrison type show up, and so you really see comic books become acceptable for adults. The next big thing after that, which I believe has led to the current downward spiral, is Image Comics. So what happened was a lot of guys who were at Marvel, they worked their way up and they were rewarded with the top books at the time, X-Men, Punisher, Spider-Man. And they said, okay, see you later, we're forming our own company. And in some ways, you really have to feel for them because all of a sudden they could sell a lot less books. You had X-Men books selling like 500,000 copies twice a month. Amazing, right? And they were sort of getting screwed over by the industry, which had traditionally screwed people over. So they all left, formed Image Comics. They did their own thing. And I say this led to a downward spiral because at that time, and up until recently, the health of Marvel Comics was the health of the industry. When Marvel was doing well, all these other studios, not just DC Comics, but a lot of independent comics were able to flourish because you'd go into a comic book store for Marvel Comics and you'd see, oh, hey, what's this? Oh, that's ElfQuest. Oh, okay. If you're a bit dirty, maybe you go for Omaha, the Cat Dancer. Whatever. So they broke off. A lot of those guys sort of disappeared, but it was a big thing. And the big problem for Marvel was after that, they never trusted creators to stick with the title. The title was never owned like it was with Chris Claremont, Mark Silvestri, or Jim Lee, or you had Rob Liefeld redefining the New Mutants into X-Force. So that slowly led, what I believe, to the downfall of Marvel. And then you had some other nonsense going on. And then what's the newest thing? Well, Gamergate, which I think is set to totally revolutionize the way that comic books are sold in the US. So what is Gamergate? So what became known as Gamergate started out with several people who were criticizing Marvel Comics for a severe lack of quality online. And so the most famous one is Richard C. Myers, online known as Zack. And you had some other people, Captain Cummings and Doug Ernst, Yellow Flash. And every time they would criticize terrible, terrible books, they got criticized by the people at Marvel saying, well, you're sexist, you're homophobic, you're racist, blah, blah, blah. One of the people who worked at Marvel said that Zack went to a KKK rally because he was a white nationalist. Zack replied later, calling her out, and called her some nasty things, which was probably not the best idea. And some stuff got involved, but in the end of the day, Zack was joined by someone named Ethan Van Sciver. Hopefully, when you watch this, you'll know him for Cyberfrog. He worked at DC for 25 years. While the whole thing was going on with Zack, people were busy calling Ethan a Nazi for over a year, trying to get him fired. Ethan came out, made his own book, Cyberfrog, which, any day, Ethan. Hopefully that's coming out soon, because I really want to see it. And during this time, they challenged Zack to make his own book if he thought he was so good. And he did. Jawbreakers. So I think Comicsgate is really going to change things because they're proving that quality matters, that if you make a good book, people will pay money for it. And that the audience that was there 20 years ago, 30 years ago, they're still there and they've got money to buy good quality stuff. So, without further ado, Jawbreakers. So, first looking at this cover, this is an Ethan Van Sciver cover. Dang, that's a nice cover. I mean, this is what you want to see. I went over Bigfoot Bill by Doug TenNapel yesterday, and I criticized it for having like a teeny tiny window of art that was kind of muddled. But look at how gorgeous this is. You have the team. The Jawbreakers are a paramilitary team with some people who have superpowers. I'm not sure why. But there are. It's sort of like, for those of us who are old enough, G.I. Joe has babies with the X-Men or something. But man, look at all the detail that went into this. This is gorgeous. I don't know if you can, how well you can see, but dang, look at that work. I believe this is colored by Kyle Ritter on the cover, but inside we have, we'll see in a second, John Malin and Bret Smith doing the colors. This is my only really complaint about this. Dude, Jawbreakers. People need to know, don't make it like a teeny tiny thing in the corner. It should be like, bam, right across the top. But, hey, small things. So, this isn't the first Jawbreakers book. Richard C. Meyer, he has done several books before. There was a war one, I think, called Chosen, about the Korean War. He had a previous Jawbreakers book, which I think is actually in here. And we will check it out. So this is the main story. Like, dang, dude, look at this. This is John Malin pencils. If for those of you who haven't checked out late 80s, early 90s comics, seriously, go back, man. Go do whatever you got to do. Comixology, sometimes they have CD, DVDs of them. Man, just go get them and see how gorgeous it was to look at. Look at all this. You have some kind of weird monster getting stabbed by what I assume is the Eiffel Tower. You got the Jawbreakers running. Whoa. Look at how nice this is. Action, 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 action. You know, I criticized Bigfoot Bill a little bit because it's like 98 pages and nothing happens. And I think this Jawbreaker story... How many pages are on? I'm not quite sure. I think it's a 22 page maybe? Maybe it's 32. I'll have to count later. But it's much shorter and things happen. Zip, zip, zip. Oh, look at this nice coloring work by Bret Smith too. I mean, these are gorgeous. So, mentioned a little bit about Bigfoot Bill, about things getting muddled too. So look at how nicely these two are here. So I believe this is Silkworm, and I forgot who this is. But see how they're nice, bright. They're a little bit more red toned, and the skin pinkish red toned. All the guys in the back are a little bit cooler colors, excuse me. So they pop out. You know, here, look at this. Two faces in the foreground. Everything else is like a shade of blue, purple, more blue. And it clearly recedes. So this is something, even though everything is colored the way the characters are colored, the colors they're supposed to be, but they really pop. So, Shashi. No one can forget Shashi. So this is sort of what sold a lot of people on this comic when it was on Indigogo. You had John Malin, he had her, and everyone was like, oh my God, we want more Shashi. So this is also something closer to what you would see in the 90s with like beefcake, cheesecake illustrations, where you really, what you're doing is illustrating as opposed to drawing the human form. So what's the difference? Well, in a drawing, you're often trying to replicate reality. Whereas in illustration, you are illustrating sort of fundamental truth, so you will make less realistic and more idealized people, right? Like, let's see if I can find a better picture of the Jawbreakers. Like, you know, do most guys have shoulders like that? Oh, heck no. So another thing I'd like to point out is, as we go through this, look at the structure. Like, we have several pages where you have long strips like this. This is sort of half and half with a bunch of individual panels here. And we see a lot of things. Look at this. Full page. Big old monkey. That's nice. As opposed to Bigfoot Bill, which was pretty much like 6 on one side, 6 on another. Let's see if we got Bigfoot Bill. So you'd end up, something like this is kind of common for Bigfoot Bill. It's a more standardized format. Not 100%, but then you can see you have a lot more varied panels, which really helps in the visual storytelling in this issue, or in this episode, I should say. And a lot of times, like, you have a lot of small ones. It looks very frantic. Let's see, skip over some stuff. And even look at this. Man, you need like some big action-y moments in here, right? This is great. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's go through a little bit. So a lot of these pages sort of have smaller panels than you saw in Bigfoot Bill. And I think there's sort of more than you would see on a normal page. So man, look at these two, just these 2 pages right here. Look at how beautiful this is. So you have slanted or diagonal frames in this. So one thing is, if it's like, where was that big monkey? Not here. Come on, here we go. So you have a shot like this, right? It's all one. It's slightly off center, because the more centered you get, the more static it feels. Here he's slightly off center, but this isn't very actiony. He's just kind of standing there looking menacing. Whereas here, everything's on a slant. So it looks like more movement. Like if we sort of did it, like if we turn it so it's sort of flat, like what's this guy doing? It looks like he tripped on something, right? But you have the book oriented like it normally should be, and man, it looks like he's really jumping out there. And then you got this page too. Very nice. You have varied, sort of a medium shot, close up. You've got far away. Look at how the angles change. Here, it's almost like a, I guess now you call it like a drone shot. Actually, this wouldn't be a medium. This would be more of a medium. But you have like full body, close up, pulling back. You get 3 people in there, medium, close up on Shashi's face. Like, man, this is just really excellent visual storytelling. I have to say that I would pay just for the art, even if I didn't like the story. Nice double page spread. This is something I miss in comics. It's like a great double page spread. There's just not enough of them. Very 80s, very 90s. Flip through. So, there's no page count. You give one? Nope. I could have sworn there were page numbers earlier on, but I guess not. So I'll count it later. I think this was the first one. So no offense to Bennett. So I think Meyer, he drew Jawbreakers the first time, and a lot of people were kind of like, yeah. So when he redid the book, he had art by Richard C. Meyer with Simon Bennett. So Simon Bennett came in and he sort of like fixed up some of the things that didn't work quite as well. Color. Oh, I guess Simon Bennett did the color as well. Interesting. So I think this was the original, Jawbreakers 1. So one of the few problems I have with Lost Souls is I don't get a whole lot of introduction to people. So here we say, why are we running Silk? So you assume this is Silk. He said, we save this city cuffs. Okay, great, that's 2. There's a guy, knife hand. You would assume it's this guy's with laser hands. I don't know why they're not metal, but whatever. I believe this guy is Hell Priest. We know because he has a priest collar, and I don't remember this guy. But it really needs a little more context, which is sort of one of my problems with Bigfoot Bill. We need like little boxes like Silkworm on team leader of the Jawbreakers. Then you have Cuffs, who, I don't know, I assume he's kind of like a roadblock from G.I. Joe. I don't know, I'm pretty sure that's like a bulletproof vest, which makes me wonder if he's wearing it, how come nobody, well, I guess Knife Hand has one, but Hell Priest, Silkworm, this guy, how come they don't have bulletproof vests? Do they have bulletproof skin or something? There needs to be something with a little bit of explanation, a little bit of context, because I never read the original. So who the heck are these guys? I need something. a little more something. Okay, then there's a guy, Kill Switch. You know, there needs to be like a little box, like Kill Switch, leader of the Jawbreakers. Or, you know, arranges something, something. And they need a little explanation of the powers. Because some of these guys, it's like, do they have powers? I don't know. Then there's like Hell Priest. Like, I guess he's blind, but he has almost Daredevil-like radar senses. But I don't know if he uses them in here. I don't know. It's really weird. So that's the only thing. And then when we get to... Here we go. When we get to the original Jawbreakers, I don't know if you guys can see it. You got a little file here. Hell Priest, Chaplain / Sniper. Like, that's what the Lost Souls book needed. But otherwise, it's all right. I'm not quite as into the art. The story is okay. Not too bad. So I don't know. Something's going on with him in powers. Let's see what else we got here. Jawbreakers Book 2. Okay. So for this, Meyer said he wanted it like a comic book you get in a cereal box in the 1980s. Mission accomplished, my friend. Not the decision I would have made, because cereal box comics were not known for their greatness. But, you know, not too bad. Just flipping through real quick. I thought there was another one. Oh, no, it's the same one. So, nice overall. We won't go into them too much. But, great book other than a couple things. There's a little subplot with, where they go, Cuffs and Shashi. Here we go. Like, the dude just met her, and he says, "It's over, girl. You're safe." And she's all, "I'm only safe when I'm with you." I don't know, man. She just met you. I don't think... I can understand him being all over her, but like, what? Why? You know, that doesn't make sense to me. So there's that. It's a really cool eyeball thing. We'll just skip over, let you see it because it's weird. Just on like a professional level, I do some wood and metalworking as fun. Why does she have a metal grinder on what looks to be a stone spear? Wouldn't you just chip the crap out of that thing? I don't know, it's weird. Let me see. So, really great book. I am looking forward to the next one, God King. I'm hoping he gets the whole team back. I really want to see John Malin art. I know John Malin had just released Graveyard Shift. Unfortunately, didn't pick that one up, so I won't be reviewing it. I don't know what happened to Bret Smith. Like, that guy just sort of disappeared. He was doing some advertising when the Indigogo for Jawbreakers was up, and then he's gone. But damn, dude, this is gorgeous. I really hope that he comes on back. Yeah, so Jawbreakers Lost Souls. I'd love to hear what you guys think. And in the future, we'll probably use Jawbreakers and Bigfoot Bill for a little comparing, contrasting against current comics, especially the sad state of affairs that is Marvel Comics and DC. So, everyone, good night.